Hey guys, welcome back to the Tough Love Podcast with Dr. John O'Connor. Today's podcast is brought to you by Cryoscience. Our local cryotherapy unit is fantastic for pain management, injury recovery, and general wellness. Let's get started, Matt.
Let's rock it, Doc. So 23 was a heck of a year. Started new businesses, entities, and that all really starts with social presence. So I feel we definitely came and grown a long way. Where would you think we're at with social media presence, marketing, and basically advertising all of our business entities right now?
That's a fantastic question, and my observation has been that to really grow, you have to get out there. And really, today's podcast is all about the importance of the strength in your social network.
Right.
And I'll never forget a person that I consider a mentor and an absolute beast in sports entertainment, Michael Rowe, had me in a meeting with a huge sports complex opening up, and always so kind with his words. And he was like, John's cell phone is a 7 to 8 figure opportunity. And as I was closing out 2023 and being inside of 3 locations, we own one. So obviously that's a staple and a cornerstone in what we do. I realized that we had to do a better job of getting out to the community.
Right.
Because unfortunately, but it's a reality, if you rely on someone else to do your work, you're probably going to be disappointed.
It won't get done.
It won't get done. And so I was pretty excited. We hosted our first social networking event last Friday, I believe, and it was a smashing success. We put everybody on a group text chain and had about 40 invitees and guests, et cetera. And I think we've got about half of them come. A lot of people were traveling, that in between Christmas and
Right.
New Year's break. And but what I saw was people appreciate creating synergies. And I made it a point to tell each and all of them, or at least get like a background of what each of them they do. And as I was introducing each guy there, I made it a point to plant a compliment, a pearl, and a contact so that it wasn't something that was self-serving.
Right.
It was really about them. And I think that that's super critical. And actually, waiting to hear back from Jonelle, my favorite clothing store, actually repping a whole outfit from him right now. We're going to be hosting our next social there. And, the neat thing is being in a high end or like a one-of-one in New Jersey, fashion boutique like itself, you have a captive audience, right? We're in there. There's 20 to 40 guys. You're talking, you're browsing around, doing some shopping, having some cocktails. And I think the neat thing is when you have that many like-minded people, you get to hear their ideas, which may inspire you or take you down a path of new success or new growth that you wouldn't otherwise thought of yourself.
Yeah.
And also, the one thing about it that I heard probably 50% of them say that didn't know me that well is they're extremely competitive and that they wanted to level up to meet people that were, even if they were in a different field, to see what they were doing to do better in their field. And that's what I realized is like, I like being around a room full of alpha dogs, if you will, because I want to hold court. I want to be the alpha, right? But I want to do my homework because I want to know all of them, that they're like, I may not be the wealthiest or the best in all classes, but my alpha is the fact that I connect the dots for all of them.
Yeah.
And that's what makes it special for me.
Right.
So I think that the biggest thing that we'll see in growth in 2024 is the importance of utilizing our social media team, utilizing our networking routes that we have, and then kind of creating like ground zero and repurposing the efforts that we're doing. And we talked about it in our first quarter meetings with our social media team, with our budgets and everything like that, because if we all are stagnant, then we all go down. If the top dog grows, everybody grows. So the most important thing we can do right now is focus on growth and want to be that lead stallion, right? And want to be the lead horse and stay there.
Yeah.
Right? Everybody can get out in a race. How many times you watch a race, you watch Kentucky Derby, and the first horse gets out, and obviously there's Secretariat, going back to when I was a baby. But for the most part, all of a sudden he gets blown away, doesn't win the race. But I want to not only get out, but I want to stay out. And I believe that we talk about the strength of marketing and strength in numbers is you stay strong and you stay growing by nurturing other people and helping them grow.
Exactly.
But I do believe there's an art to that. So many times you hear about these network groups that are out there and they say, oh, you got to bring somebody in, this and that. I say, hey guys, there's no dues. There's no show up at 7:00 a.m. on a Wednesday, take away your workout time. Your dues is effort. Your dues is commitment. Your dues is being a good human. That you're like, hey, I got a guy that needs social media. I'm going to put up clean media. Hey, I need a guy that needs an anti-aging center. I'm going to reach out to John O'Connor, Philosophy Wellness Institute. Hey, I need I need a clothing. I need a tuxedo. Hey, I'm going to reach out to John to get me set up with Jonelle. And when you think about it that way, and you have 100 guys, and each of them know 10 people, there's 1,000 opportunities right there. Of the 40, 2 of those guys had 1,000-man companies. Right. So, what I said was, okay, well, don't be average, be exceptional. When you have the opportunity to bring these people in, be engaged, be engaging, be welcoming, but do what you say you're promised to do. Put them in front of people, try to help them out. And when people genuinely see that you're selflessly trying to help them, I think they'll invest in you, they'll invest in what you do, and they'll get behind you. And so I think that was probably the most powerful part of that Friday. And I'm so excited for the next event because I realized I'm like, and then the other thing was, it was neat to see everybody's pain points, right? You see guys that you see all the time, and to hear one guy say, I was thrown out of high school because I burnt down my temple. And didn't expect that. And then, it was a good looking kid. So back then around that time, everybody was looked like Tom Cruise in Wall Street. Right. And, he went from the fire of being a high school legend and, avoiding any type of legal stuff to a Ponzi scheme or something. And the feds came in and closed it down like the beginning of The Wolf of Wall Street. And, he had said, he talked about all different kinds of pressures and stress in his life. And, and we're sitting there among these guys and he was talking about you see people drinking and not drinking, and he wasn't drinking. And he was really forthright. It was right now I don't do that, and, I had some issues with it back in the day. I said, hey, understood. Let me get you waters. I'll have them with you. But if I don't link these guys together, we don't see that side. And I believe that when anybody, especially somebody that's an acquaintance at best, shows you that vulnerable side and you can embrace it and counter it with respect, understanding, and compassion, you go from an acquaintance to a friend. And that happened a handful of times in a few minutes of meeting.
That's how you grow.
And that's how you grow. And just like that, he sent 5 friends in, and we're in a much better position for it. So, like I said, I wouldn't have thought to go in that and create a social networking group, but seeing it, I wouldn't do it any other way.
I think that's the biggest thing is getting to know more people, bringing in more newer people in your life. Doesn't even have to be business. Could be your new gym partner, study partner, whatever it is. And I'm going to use the Hormozy approach. My podcast I was listening to this morning, he was saying how at first when he started his first business for the gym, he'd reach out to 3,000-4,000 a day. His partner said, I reached out to 300 today. He's like, what's that going to do? He said, that's going to attract less than 1%. So you're talking about maybe 1 to 3 people. I did 4,000. I'm going to attract 50 to 60 that are going to fully engage. So the more you reach out, the better you have to get a bigger presence and a bigger following.
1,000%. And when you also, and people say it, right? They say, get comfortable being uncomfortable. I was walking up to random strangers that I say stranger acquaintance or a patient, but hearing them grow or hearing their pain points and saying, hey, you know what, I'm going to connect guys. And, that could be frowned upon, that, people could get back. They could all said no. And I was blown away with the warm welcome of it. And I was like, at first I was uncomfortable. I wasn't really sure.
Right.
They think it was self-serving. What was the point? But there were coachable moments. What I realized is when you bring them all in, you want to deliver the realness of it. Hey
Right.
guys, this is why I have you here, right? My selfish want is this, but in exchange or in return, I'm going to make sure everybody's linked into each other and you guys are connected.
Yeah, I mean, you were doing that all week, in and out, talking to patients, and some people popping in. You were explaining to them what it's going to be about. This is what it is.
100%.
That's so important.
Yeah, and when we take it into effect of what we were trying to do and then what we accomplished, we said, okay, hey, you know what? To what Alex Hormozi said, now I'm going to invite 60.
Yeah.
And I anticipate 50% coming. And if I get 30, that's really the number.
Right.
Right. And, we invited 40 and 20 came. So I'm like, you know what?
It's a win.
It's a win. But I always want to level up.
Yeah.
I always want to be a little bit better. And, it's the one thing about it is I know as a practitioner, especially like in the core four, I don't want to brag, but like I'm probably one of one in the state of New Jersey, but it's still hard. Right. And I am not just settled with that. Like I want to be top in the country. I want to coach across the board. I want to be a consultant for the next 10 years.
There's always a story behind being number one.
Yeah. And that I want to bring it. Right. And, so when people are like, wow, I can't believe you're that good with that. I said, you know what's funny? Even when I was training in basketball or anything I've done, I said, it's always been me versus me. I've never thought of people as competition. I've always thought, what can you do better?
Yeah.
At the end of the day, it's you in front of that patient. It's you in front of that audience. It's you in front of the guy that's guarding you. And how are you going to separate? How are you going to be unique? How are you going to be different? And ultimately, how are you going to win?
Right.
And, but like I said, I think for the audience listening today, I think it's so important that I think every couple of years, your business, whatever it is going to run into some ebbs and flows, and that you have to constantly be reinventing. And, yes, you could be that person to wait for the punch in the face and then have to react. But I would much rather take the approach like our social marketing teams are quite unique, right? We have a video creation team that's absolutely amazing. And then we have a national, social media team that deals with analytics. The marriage of the two is going to create an amazing business.
It's a 1-2 punch.
Because it's that 1-2 punch, the youthfulness and the energy of the video creation married to the analytics, and now you have results, right?
Right.
And just like you were saying with Alex Hormozi saying, hey, listen, I'm going to reach out to 3,000 people because I get 10%, that's 300.
Yeah.
The reality is I'm probably getting 5%, which is 150. But to hit the number for all the paid advertising and everything he did, he goes, I got to target 3,000. So I got to do that 3 times to hit that number to be out of debt.
And that was the episode about he was 3Xing his marketing, second year of business.
Yeah. And, and to me, I burned that all to my memory. And it's like, I was going after, we have a huge event coming up with Eric LeGrand and, talking about the power of marketing and the power of a person. When I first met him and shared that I was paralyzed with GBS and obviously different than a spinal cord injury, but nonetheless, in that moment when you wake up and the whole left side of your body is paralyzed, and just like when he got carted off that football field the last day he ever walked as a Rutgers, as a Scarlet Knight, and he bleeds red and white. You know what I mean? Like
Still does, yeah.
And the passion and energy he has, I want to do anything I can to make him successful, because I see people that have the full use of their bodies that don't put in half the energy this man does.
Right.
And, as a quadriplegic, and it is amazing. Matter of fact, I'm proud to call him a friend as our friendship is evolving, and I want to make sure this event is an absolute success. Not only is it great for us, but how much I believe in him. Because looking back as a kid, when I was sick, I had 3 friends that we were inseparable, and it was like Sandlot.
Yeah.
And one passed away my senior year of high school. It was pretty devastating for me. But, Eric has the world behind him. He has a university behind him. And yet, as much as that's there, it would be nice to say, hey, listen, I didn't build the whole wall for him, but I put a couple bricks up for him.
Right.
All right. And whenever you can be part of a brick and mortar business, right, that you're part of it, I think that's a great thing because we talk about, again, supporting small businesses,
Right.
supporting startups and networking. And then all of a sudden, but being mindful, right? Connecting the dots, circling back to your business, being alert, being attentive. Somebody needs something. Paying attention to introductions, how you walk into a room, how you carry yourself. And
Be humble when you get there, when you make it big.
100%, and that's the big thing. Like, I try to carry myself around young businessmen, especially a lot of these guys I meet in their 20s, whether I'm at Iron or, I'm at the sauna place. And, they're always asking questions. I'm like, hey, listen, unfortunately, I've gotten to a place of success, but there's been a lot of failures.
Right.
Let me start with the failures because, if you're looking at my house, you're looking at my cars and you're looking at what I got there, let's talk about the journey because that's way more important. And that's why that networking and all is so important. And the funny thing about it was, even when I told you I want to target guys at your age from 30 to 40,
Yeah.
right? Because I'm now 40 to 50 in my
Right.
last year of my 40s. And when in my 30s, most of my friends were in their 50s and 60s. And I loved the wisdom that they brought to the table. And now as I find myself, being a person that's, imparting or instilling wisdom in people, I think there's a huge value to that. And at the same time, I used to say right before COVID hit and, feeling amazing, working on athletes all the time, that I felt like Peter Pan, that I was never going to come off the court. And I'd be like that 60-year-old out there running laps with the kids. Yeah. And, and the world kind of stopped. But now when we talk about pivoting and dealing with, chaos and all these different things that happens, you realize that it's about saying, let me think about what I can't do. Let's think about all the things I can do.
Mm-hmm.
But again, the whole point of today's podcast is what I can do with the help of others. What I can do if I bring a group together that are like-minded.
Right.
And creating a network that is centered around growth,
Right.
encouragement, loyalty, and production.
Right.
And when I say production, like making a point that how did you positively impact someone else today? Did you try to refer somebody to somebody randomly? Have you did a random act of kindness to the people in the group? And I don't care whether it's trainers from the gym, restaurant owners, construction guys, landscapers. Yeah. I think there's potential growth in all those verticals.
No, absolutely. I think that's huge. And I want to revert back to when you were talking about just building everything. There's a lot of people out there that they let their egos get to them. They think they're on top. They don't like help or reaching out to expand their social presence. What advice can you give somebody that they feel like they're good enough? I don't need any more support, any more social presence. How would you expand their minds into thinking, hey, let me reach out to him and then he can give me 10 more leads?
That's a great question. So probably when I hit 40, I felt like I was top of the food chain, right? I was crushing it and arrogant, egotistical, didn't need anybody, didn't need anything. Because literally I would walk it, talk it. I was out 7 days a week, training, treating, marketing, doing it all. And I never included anybody. And I don't know what word, ignorance, right? Because I never thought about what if I got hurt? What if there was, a pandemic? I never thought about a rainy day.
Right.
Right.
Just in the now.
Just present. And arrogant as hell. And when everything came to a screeching halt with a couple injuries and then COVID, I realized that arrogance was the fuel to failure. And that it's so important to have a strong network group of, if you're in healthcare, doctors, if you're in business, make sure you have a good financial legal team, a good accounting firms, all aspects. And when I put the networking group together recently, I made sure I had every aspect of real estate, every aspect of building, different verticals in healthcare, which I want to continue to develop and grow that. And then a few other things. And so that way, when people were meeting, they had some commonality. But if you looked at it like a web, and I used to love that UPS commercial where the guy would draw with the whiteboard, that you could connect the dots.
Yep.
And so to me, like I said, there were a lot of great memories too. And I think that sometimes people get upset. Like if I'll say, hey, I've been miserable for the last decade. It's not that. It has nothing to do. It's just so many layers, because I think there are so many people that their brains work like me. I center a lot of my happiness on success, on financial success, on achievements, individual and team. And I think that's my sports background. And I think there's more people than not that think that way. They just can't articulate it. And what I realize now, it's about balance and finding an inner peace. Yes, you have to have a fire in you. Yes, you have to chase it, but you have to take a moment to be grateful. And
that's the pearl right there. That's the answer to that question.
Yeah. And when you're grateful for those that are around you, that are trying to help you grow and proliferate what you're doing, but simultaneously you're helping them, now you have something special. We were talking about it today in the practice, like who refers to us consistently, who do we refer to, and the importance of that. And in healthcare, that's how it works. I think in years past, from 27 to 42, if you're talking about 15 years or a decade and a half, I was everywhere. And so it was hard to get away from me, right?
Yeah.
I was all the way down in, I was out in Cream Ridge training, Allentown, all the way down in Lacey, all the way to Staten Island, and everything, Old Bridge, Woodbridge, and everything in Monmouth County. So if you came through sports medicine, sports performance, you came through me, and now with the kids being older, I'm older, it's a different kind of energy. And now we want to work with social media. But there still is that importance that we have to get out there. And, to the point of, I was talking to, living in the town we live in with some famous musicians, and, we're trying to line up one of them to jump them on the podcast and have an amazing opportunity, but they're about to go on tour. And, he's like, being 50, 60 years old, he's like, you really got to stay healthy, because when you go on tour, you don't realize how demanding it is.
Yeah.
But it's about growth.
Right.
And to the point where we're at now, it's like, I know right now, and it's not just physical, it's mental. We need to push it on a whole nother level. I told the social media team, I told my clinical team, I said, hey guys, if you want to do something exceptional, then you have to do something that no one anticipates.
Right.
If you want to be extraordinary, then you have to do something that's not ordinary.
Right.
If you want to be the best and you're right alongside, shoulder to shoulder with everyone else, it's not going to happen. You have to look to see what sets you apart, right? Go in the gym at, 4:00 in the morning because you're there. And that was one thing for me that's always been, I think, unfortunately not by choice, but I've had a lot of injuries. So I have alarms in my phone from like my knee surgery where it was like, literally FU, GT, FU, F off, get the F up, and go rehab.
Right.
And it was like dead of winter, and I was cleared from the one rehab center. And again, back to Michael Rowe, he got me access to Jason Kidd's protocol, and then I found it online, and it was water aerobics or water training and all these different things. And you're talking about 10 years ago, probably 10 years ago to right about this month, I was in that pool running. And I had two major D1 athletes. I had one from West Virginia, one from Duke. And they had no idea how crippled I was, because in the water, I was buoyant, and I had the aqua jogger on. And by the time the one went out west, the other one returned to Europe to play, I was fully functional. And they were getting in their best shape to go play pro. One's now a national trainer and has a huge following. And then the other one was a pro athlete, former All-American at Duke. And it was symbiotic, right? And so, like I said, that network from meeting people was so important. And now just carrying it on, that I'm not doing that in sports anymore.
Yeah.
But now as a business athlete, we're bringing it there. We're bringing in some excellent fire. So today, what I would tell all my guests and viewers is, if you want to grow, you have to reach out and you have to get comfortable with being uncomfortable. You must stay focused on what your goals are and aspirations. You have to plan for success, but anticipate failures. You have to prepare every day. And I think forecasting for the week, the month, the quarter, the year is what it's all about. And when you can plan like that, success is going to follow, very quickly. And, I think that's what it's all about. So guys, thank you so much for joining us today on the Tough Love Podcast. Please share this. You find value in this. Share this with your friends and your family. Of course, follow us, and you can see us on many platforms. So we'll see you guys again soon. And thank you so much for joining us today.